Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be detailing the last 3 stops on our 7-night Alaska voyage from Seattle, Washington. So today is going to be Tracy Arm Fjord, which is a scenic cruising day, but we are actually up very early to hop aboard a smaller vessel that's going to take us a little bit deeper into the fjord and see some glaciers. Then we're going to stop in Ketchikan, Alaska for a morning, and then sail on to Victoria, British Columbia for a 3-hour stop that I will tell you about when we get there. It's kind of to satisfy some legal requirements, but right now let's focus on glaciers and Tracy Arm Fjord. So this is a very expensive excursion on this day. You don't have to do this excursion, but if you want a chance to see glaciers or a little bit more wildlife, I highly recommend spending the $250 a person for this multi-hour excursion up the fjord. There's 2 different ships, 2 different times that you can actually do this tour during this day. The ship itself, we boarded a little bit further out from the fjord and rowed in, and the ship met us maybe 20-25% of the way into the fjord, but we went way deeper. So this voyage, you have the chance to see the Sawyer Glacier. So that is probably the most spectacular of the 2 glaciers that are available on this tour. Unfortunately, we were not able to get super close to it because of the ice fields. So the ice actually falls into the water, and then we are forced to kind of maneuver around it. Some days it's better than others. We just got a little bit unlucky, but we were able to see it from a distance. But overall, the views that we had on this excursion were absolutely unbelievable. So there is a naturalist on board that is giving you all sorts of fun facts. Though if you are someone who wants to stand outside and look at the views, which we did as well, just note that the narration is only going to be going on inside of the ship just to not disrupt the natural environment outside. So that was a little bit of a bummer. I wish they maybe could provide some headphones or something that we could listen in on and know all the facts that they were hearing on the inside, because the outer decks get pretty crowded, and from the inside, your view is going to be impacted a little bit by that. So just keep that in mind. But overall, it's about a 2-hour-ish tour into Tracy Arm Fjord to see these glaciers. Number of different stops along the way, including some beautiful waterfalls. This is actually a true waterfall, not a cascade. One thing I learned is a waterfall comes from a stream, while a cascade comes from a glacier. So this is actually a true waterfall. After the waterfall, we did start to see some icebergs. So the icebergs, of course, coming from the glacier, they float in the water, smaller and then bigger as you get close to the glacier. Just absolutely stunning and wild to see in person. This is unlike anything that I had ever seen before from the water. So very cool and very different than my Caribbean cruising that you'll see on the channel. Now, the good news is once you do hit the ice fields, they will actually stop the boat and pull aboard some of the ice, and they will start making delicious glacieritas. So these are an extra charge. These aren't included in your tour, but definitely worth doing because you're going to get some centuries, thousands of years old glacier ice in your drink. There's non-alcoholic options as well. So they have a few free beverages on board. They have teas, coffee, water, as well as a few small snacks that are free, and then some for purchase. So well taken care of on this excursion. Crew itself, really amazing. Tried their best to get us as close as possible to anything, but unfortunately we just couldn't get that close to the glaciers. We also didn't see any bears or seals, though I've seen in other videos that people have seen seals before just resting on the iceberg, so pretty cool to see here. Now, there is a second glacier that is pretty much always easy to get to because there's just less ice that falls off of it into the water. This one is not as pretty as the one that we weren't able to see up close, but it is still a glacier, so you can see kind of the dirt from just the various rock that is eroded away by the glacier there on the front. Still really spectacular, still very unique, but yeah, we couldn't see up close the Sawyer Glacier right there. That's just the true blue ice and things like that. There were a few other vessels that were touring Tracy Arm Fjord with us, which was kind of cool to see. Some smaller cruise ships on more personal tours than the Carnival Luminosa, but really fun to see all that. Now, if you are taking an Alaska cruise, you just want to check the itinerary to see if you actually are going to stop in Tracy Arm Fjord. A lot of others use Endicott Arm or sometimes Glacier Bay National Park, so you're not necessarily going to be guaranteed to see this particular fjord on your cruise. You're just going to want to check that schedule. So it was cool to see my first fjord in America, so that's really fun. But yeah, just a little bit different of a tour than just hanging on the Carnival Luminosa, which is completely free, of course, just you're not going to see these glaciers from the ship. Other scenic cruising days through different arms and fjords may actually see glaciers directly from the ship, which I think is probably a benefit. But eventually we did make our way back to the ship that had made its way up the fjord a little bit, and we hopped back on board. It was lunchtime when we hopped back on board, so it was time for the Sea Day brunch, which is now one of my favorite things to do on the Carnival ships when there is a sea day. Really good burger here. You can get it with egg. I elected to have it without egg, but then my dad wanted to enter the paper airplane contest. Didn't go well for him, but he tried his best, and we're proud of him. Then after a few hours, it was time for more eating, so it was Italian night. I grabbed some French onion soup and then had the chicken parmigiana, which was really good. Again, main dining room on Carnival ships, pretty dang good. And then elected to have a little delicious dessert there. And then we had Deal or No Deal later that day. But we got to bed a little earlier because, it was an early morning start here in Ketchikan. We only had the morning here. That's kind of the more annoying things about this voyage, I think, is I would have liked to have more time in Ketchikan, go explore a little bit more, maybe a chance to see a little bit more wildlife. There is a lot to see in Ketchikan, a lot to explore in town from the ship. You don't necessarily have to do a tour, but there are bear excursions. There's different wildlife tours available from different ships, so just do your research there. Today, we really just did the lumberjack show, which was a lot of fun, very touristy, but really, just a touristy fun time. It only lasts about an hour, so you have the whole rest of the morning to go explore around town, grab some lunch. They give you some free popcorn as you walk in. No video, unfortunately, during this, but these are all professional lumberjacks that compete on some of those ESPN shows that you might see in the middle of the summer that, when there's not other sports on. It's really fun, so I do recommend that. Do also recommend stopping by the National Forest Visitor Center. They have some totem poles in here. They have some few displays, a lot of cool things about the native cultures here. So this was really well done. And if you have a National Parks Pass, it's actually free. Otherwise, I think it's $5 per person. Creek Street is also an awesome touristy attraction here that's completely free. Lots of shops and a few restaurants here. It follows the creek that runs through town, and then if you follow the boardwalks up uphill a little bit, you're going to find the salmon run. During our time, the salmon were actually running, so they're trying to make their way up the waterfall a little bit. We'll show you a few shots of that in a bit. But this is the former red light district of Ketchikan. A lot of red light districts here during the gold rush age, but really cool. A lot of museums here, just kind of preserving what the experience was like back in the day. A few bald eagles here in the trees too. So Dolly's house is going to be that brothel museum. So if you missed your chance in Skagway, you can go check that out as well. But beautiful stream, lots and lots of lush vegetation. This is one of the rainiest parts of Alaska. We had a little bit of rain on our day, but not a ton. It was just mostly cloudy, honestly. We just absolutely loved these salmon runs, though. I mean, this was really cool to watch them try and make their way up the waterfall. But they actually have a little section during high tide that they can make their way up a ladder. A little less dangerous for them, because you did notice a lot of dead salmon on the rocks here that just didn't make it, unfortunately. But that was enough exploring for the day for us in Ketchikan. Again, we only had the morning, so we couldn't do a dedicated excursion. We just selected to do the lumberjack show and grab some lunch and walk around town a little bit. I would definitely like to return here. Loved watching all the seaplanes take off and land from the ship, basically at eye level. Really cool stuff here in Ketchikan. Just a very unique town. On board, of course, they had a few activities like axe throwing, though it's, foam axes. But of course it was time to eat again, so we grabbed some mushroom soup, a little beef carpaccio, and then lobster this evening. So great that I had lobster in the main dining room. You could get multiple lobsters if you wanted. Big plus there over Royal Caribbean, I will say. And of course the creme brulee. Also had a chance to try the money crane game. Didn't work out for us, but it was a lot of fun. We came close a couple times, I'll tell you. And then it was time for the production show, which was just okay. Not my favorite. And then the next day was pretty much a full sea day, except for 3 hours in the evening, which was after dinner, which is so weird to me to actually leave the ship after dinner for my port of call. But it was last evening on board, and you have to stop in Victoria, British Columbia, to make it like a true legal cruise, because these are foreign flagged vessels, and so they actually have to stop somewhere internationally to make it legal. And it's an old law that the US still has on the books, so we do this 3-hour stop in Victoria. My dad actually just stayed on the ship. I decided to walk into town and do a quick little loop and then get back on board. There's a few excursions that you can do. The famous Bouchard Gardens are available, but since we stopped at about 8:30 at night, I just felt like for $170 to go see some gardens in kind of dusk and dark, not necessarily worth the money. So I just made my own excursion. I wish we had a little bit more time here. I probably would have enjoyed going to see the gardens or something else in town, but we did make it into Canada. Really cute little port, really cute town, very Victorian, very English feeling to me. And it was fun to walk around town and see some of the lights at night. There's some really pretty buildings, including the Parliament building, as well as the Fairmont Hotel. So that's cool to see just from a distance. You can take a cab into town or a shuttle, but I opted to walk. It was a quick 30-minute walk or so, about 3.5, 4 miles round trip for all the excursioning that I did, which was perfect for me. May not be for everyone, but I really liked my walk into town. I got to see the Fisherman's Wharf and some of the houseboats that people live on. This is basically my walk from the ship into the main downtown. It's easy to follow on Google Maps. Saw some Canada geese, which I thought was very appropriate. And they come to my neck of the woods in Scottsdale, Arizona every winter, so it was nice to come visit them during their main season up here. Here's some of those houseboats, which is really pretty. So you can notice it's basically nighttime at this point. Just very weird to only have 3 hours in a port. And here's the Parliament, all lit up at night, very pretty. Has a nice totem pole there as well. It's a very historic town. Again, would have liked to have been able to do a tour and kind of understood a little bit more of the history. But just with the prices of the tours and the limited time here, I just felt like it wasn't necessarily worth it. But overall, that basically rounds out our Carnival Luminosa voyage. Next day, we just headed straight to the airport, and it was no big thing. I want to thank you all for watching all this content on our Alaska cruise, and we'll see you on the next video.